Just wrapping up my trip out to Montana, where I was out in the eastern part of the state, targeting bobcat. Ended up catching one cat and one coyote out there, so mission accomplished on that. Montana is probably the fifth or sixth state that I've trapped in, and I like to travel to different states to target different animals. I'm a resident of Wisconsin, and we have plenty of game there. I primarily trap beaver, just because where I'm at in the northern part of the state, we have a lot of beaver and not quite as many of the coyotes and fox that they have in the southern part of the state. So if you've ever considered trapping in a different state, I would encourage it. First, you need to identify what it is you're targeting. Maybe you're from a southern state that doesn't have too many beaver, or you're in a state that doesn't have many bobcat or no marten, for instance, and you want to trap those species. Then get on the internet and find the different states that have those higher concentrations of the animals you want to trap, and then do your research and find out on the regulations for those states. Are non-residents allowed to trap there? For instance, Minnesota doesn't allow non-residents to trap. There's a few other states as well. In fact, Montana for forever has not allowed non-residents to trap fur bearers in Montana. You could come out and trap coyote and fox and badger and skunk and stuff like that, but no fur bearers. They just changed that law, so right away I'm like, I'm going to Montana. I go out there. I come out to Montana a couple times a year for different reasons, and I'd always thought about trapping out here, but wasn't allowed to. So this year I went through the process, which was kind of a process for Montana. I had to, so you buy your license, I think it was around $250, and then you had to print off like an affidavit that you had to get notarized, saying that your state does allow Montana residents to trap in your state. So I had to get that notarized. I had to put a copy of our Wisconsin hunting regulations, where it specifically states we allow non-residents except for Hawaii and Minnesota, because they don't allow us to trap there. And then, so I had to get that notarized, send it in, and then, and I also sent my trapping certificate from Wisconsin. So about a week later, Montana Fish and Game, Fish and Wildlife Office called. They called me, and they said, "Hey, we do not recognize your Wisconsin state trapper safety education, even though I've been trapping since the 80s. I might not be the best trapper, but I do have a fair amount of experience doing it." And so I'm like, well, I already paid my $250, and I already have plans to go out to Montana in January. This was back in late November when this happened. And they're like, well, if you send us proof that you've had a trapping license in the last 3 consecutive years, then we'll let you trap here. So I sent them, licenses that I had from Idaho and Wisconsin and Alaska, and then they emailed back and said, okay, I'm approved. So one thing on if you are coming to Montana to trap bobcats, though, you have to purchase your license before season opens. Season opens December 1st, so you have to purchase your license by November 30th, or you're not allowed to trap bobcat at all, even though the season goes until either mid-February or March 1st, depending on what part of the state you're in. Non-residents are not allowed to hunt bobcat, though, which is kind of a weird rule. So you're only allowed to trap them. And if you want to trap wolves, you have to take a separate wolf trapping class that's offered in either Montana or Idaho, and it's good for either state. Which I have not yet been able to schedule that class. I had one scheduled last summer and then paid for it, but I wasn't able to attend. But I'm not. Where I was trapping out in eastern Montana, there's very few, if any, wolves. I think they get maybe one a year out there in Region 7. So Montana is broken into 7 different regions and very different rules and regulations and restrictions on trapping in each of those different regions. So another state I went to was South Dakota, because where I was at in northern Wisconsin, not a lot of coyotes. And a couple years ago, we got a ton of snow. I wasn't able to really get around. So called a buddy out in South Dakota that has a bunch of land, and he said, yeah, come on out. We don't have much snow. So went out there and trapped coyotes for a week or two. I really wanted to trap marten a few years ago. I had never caught one. So went out to Idaho and had a blast out there. They're a lot of fun to catch if you haven't trapped marten. And then, of course, my Alaska adventure last year. If you haven't seen my 6-part series on my trip up there a year ago, give it a follow. You know, I wanted to catch a wolverine. That was my number one target, but I was also going after lynx and wolf and marten, and I got all 4 of those species, in addition to some weasel, muskrat, and beaver. So had a great time up there. Got a little chilly, sleeping in a tent for 2 months at 30 below, but it was a great trip. Not sure if I'll do that anytime soon again. If I do, I might look at renting an Airbnb as opposed to staying in a tent in those frigid temperatures. So yeah, if you're a trapper and whatever state you're in, you know, the grass is always green on the other side. You know, get out there and travel around, go to a different state, and go after that target animal that you don't have very many of, or you're not allowed to trap in your home state. Prices vary greatly for non-resident trapping license. Wisconsin, I think, is one of the cheapest at about $150. And another thing you want to look at is public land availability. If you don't know somebody in that state that's going to give you permission to trap on their land, you're going to be limited to public land. So some states like Texas, you know, they have a lot of coyote, a lot of bobcat, but very little public land. So unless you know somebody down there, you know, that's going to be kind of a hard sell. If you go out west, some of the western states, you know, like Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, and then of course up in Alaska, there's lots and lots of federal land. Right now, I mean, I'm not trapping right now, but I'm right next to 1 million acres of national forest that's free to trap in, and you can camp out there too if that's your thing. I think Idaho license was around 330, Montana 250, South Dakota was 230, Alaska was over 400, like 405, 410, something like that. So they vary greatly. But everything's available on the internet. You know, just look at, you know, like I said, first identify the species that you want to target, and then find that state that has an abundance of that species. The licensing isn't astronomical, and there is plenty of public land for you to trap on. And then, you know, go do it. And for anyone who says that, well, it's not worth it, price of fur is so low, why would I spend extra money to travel out of state, pay for gas, lodging, food, all this other crap, non-resident trapping license? Why would I buy all that and spend all that money just to catch, you know, a $25 coyote or whatever? And my reply to that is, why do you go on fishing trips? Why do you go on hunting trips, you know, 4 states away for ducks and spend, you know, thousands of dollars to hunt and fish in other states? You know, the price of duck is pretty low. The price of walleye is pretty low. So why are you fishing and hunting, right? That's my rebuttal when people tell me the price of fur is low, and then ask why I'm bothering, why am I trapping? Well, because it's what I enjoy. This is my hobby. This is my thing. I'm an old retired military guy, and so this is what I do. This is my therapy. You know, I'm out here. I mean, I'm in a you know, I see some of the most beautiful country, most beautiful areas in our great nation, and I'm just, you know, living my life and having a great time. So I'm gonna plan to travel and trap some other states. In fact, I'm actually probably moving to the East Coast here in 2025. So you know, there's a lot of states between Wisconsin and the East Coast that I'll probably end up trapping here over the next couple years. Anyway, if you have any questions or comments, you know, put them below. I try to answer most of them unless they're ridiculous. I can also add a link if you want to some of my my Alaska trapping videos. Yeah, I'll put a link down there below, maybe to the one where I got my first wolverine. That was pretty exciting. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for my next adventure.